Hello and welcome to another episode of Invalid Entry. This is where we left off at the end of yesterday, was we had the kings running backwards and forwards. I'm doing everything from one window today because I'm actually indoors. You can see the Christmas tree is up with the eyes because Christmas trees like to watch whether you're being naughty or nice. Today we're going to, by the way, I did do a quick test this. I've moved the camels down. I've made this picture a little bit bigger because we're going to be adding the background in today. There's a bit of trial and error on where they should go. What I've done is I've created a new class here called background, the parallax thing. So I'm going to make it do parallax lining. And we're going to start filling out this class. Get right into it. So I've already decided I want to have passed in the image file and the speed. And the reason I want the speed is because there's going to be multiple layers and they go across. But we're going to keep it simple to begin with. So we want something called asset to store our asset in. I want something called, I don't really need to keep the speed. Actually, I do need to keep the speed. I'm lying. And I need to remember where I am. That's very important. I only need one asset, by the way. I am going to do this a bit cheeky. Basically, my background images are the right size. There's going to be exactly two of them. The screen is the full size. If you needed more, then you'd have to put a bit of a loop in. I think that might be all I need. So first of all, we're just going to load the asset in. Now, I've already saved these in, so because I couldn't remember the exact syntax, I didn't want to have to look them up when they're on one screen. Pygame image load, image file, convert alpha. Now, my background assets that I acquired, I must admit I didn't draw them myself. They actually are for full size, 1920. So I'm actually going to scale them down. So this next line, you might not need. Basically, I'm just going to divide them by 2 just to fit the size of my window. Self.speed equals speed. So that should be all I actually need. Now, to actually render these in, what I'm going to do is I want to render it at the offset. So self or surface.blit. I'm having a very quick look at my camel class because I can never remember the blit line. The image I want to do and the coordinates I want to blit to. So blit in at the coordinates will be offset, comma, 0. Because I wanted to always be blit at the top, at the height will be 0. Oh, so and the image I want to upload, it will be self.asset. Okay. Now I actually want to blit this twice. I'm going to actually store the width, and the width will be self.width equals self.asset.get width. Yeah, width. There we go. Spot it right. The second one, in fact, right edge equals offset plus self.width. The next one will go in lining up perfectly. So instead of being on the offset, it will be the right edge. So I've got 2 backgrounds exactly the right distance apart. And what we're going to do is we're basically going to say that the self.offset minus equals, usually plus equals, but because we actually want the background to shift to the left, because the camels are running to the right, the camels are actually going to stay still, so the background moves instead, so it's a minus self.speed. Now, at some point, the background will go off the left-hand side. So what we're going to say is that if the right edge is less or equal to 0, which basically means that it's gone off the edge. Now, I can't say just equal to 0 because this surface may not be moving 1 pixel at a time, so it could actually skip 0. It could go from like 5 to -5 if it's moving like 10 at a time, for example. If the right edge is equal to her, then what we actually want to do is we want to add an entire width on. So you're not just going to reset it to 0 because that will make the background jump suddenly. So you can add entire width on. So self.offset plus equals self.width. That's, of course, assuming that the speed that it goes across at is less than the entire width of the screen. And that's an interesting thing because you could try and make these classes bulletproof and allow you to go over speeding. And you do see that in certain games, actually, when you're playing a game. If you can go faster than the game ever intended you to do, you get weird graphics effects or you get weird glitches going on. which can lead to secret areas and all kinds of things. So you need to decide when you're writing the game whether that's ever going to happen, for example, with mods or patches or future development, or whether it's and therefore spend the time to fix those issues before they happen, or whether you just say, I don't care, and just make it easy on yourself. So at this point, we also need to recalculate the right-hand edge. Now, in theory, at this point, the right-hand edge will... There may be a black line if I didn't do that. So the right-hand edge can recalculate that point again, and we can continue on. So with that in mind, I'm going to just nip back to my RunMe, and I'm making sure that I'm actually going to add in a new background effect, and I'm adding my background layer in. Now, this magic number 17, I just want to show you where I got that from. The magic number 17 here was calculated from my camels. And what I did was I basically took the camel on the left. If I zoom in quite a bit here, and I looked at where his foot touched down, basically at the furthest forward. So we can look at this camel here, for example. We can grab this camel in its entirety, and do I actually have a copy of this? Yeah, I have a copy of this camel now. And we can look to see where his foot is furthest back. And I think the tail doesn't move. So what we do is we now get these two overlined, so the back of the tail there is perfectly aligned. We grab the ruler object. The ruler object in Photoshop is just under the eyedropper tool. You might the eyedropper tool normally. And you measure the distance of these 2 points. Because the idea is that when the foot comes down, unless it's on ice and it's skidding around, it's actually going to grip that point of the surface until it comes up again. And that distance there happens to be, in this case, it's 57. Meaning I've done my calculations horribly wrong, because 17 looks awesome. So be careful of that when you do this calculation. Work out the numbers. I actually, beforehand, I used the back leg. I measured this distance to one of the other distances. So we're going to check this actually does look right when we're actually running it, because that just came out as 57. Ooh, there are all kinds of adverts popping up there. Right. And I got a operand type issue there. The operand types is because somewhere along here I didn't set... because we've now got these two values in here. Oh, sorry. These two values in here, they have to be set to 0. Self.offset equals 0 and self.width. Oh, width is already calculated. There we go. That should work the first time around. And I have used a self. There we go. Couple of minor bugs. And there you go. They're running along quite nicely, and I think we'd have to measure that detailed. Now, this is without the parallax, so that the background is moving as front as the foreground. And if you'd be on a train or a car, you should know that doesn't happen. And it doesn't happen because basically, even though the things in distance are moving relative to you at the same speed, because they're further away, they travel a smaller distance in terms of number of degrees of your vision, or arc minutes, arc seconds that they move across. So this is what's called parallax. So we can do that by, instead of just having one picture, which I've got here as this is the one picture, if you actually have your background broken up into lots of different layers with transparency, you can actually bring those in as different layers with different speeds. And because we've developed this as a class, this parallax class as a class, we can now nip back to the RunMe, and we can say, actually, I want to have in the foreground, in front of the camels, I'm actually going to have, I've got to look at what my things are called here. I think it's called ground 1, ground 2. There we go. So this one here can actually be layers stroke ground 1 01.png like that. And then behind that we can put layers ground 2. It was the way around, I think. Ground 2 like that. So I'm just going to comment out the top line for the moment with an actual comment. Run that again, and there you go. They're moving quite nicely. Everything else is black. As you see, I position these camels quite nicely. In fact, what I was actually thinking of doing with these camels, just so you know, was with the camels, I was actually going to make their height just a little bit different. So I want the third one to be the lowest, and then minus 178, 179, 180. There we go. And then we actually can add in the other layers, pretty much in the same way. So this becomes foreground. Now, you've got to think about the distances here. Every distance, every twice as far away, you want to halve this number. I'm not convinced these layers are exactly double, so I'm going to try and do my best to separate them out a little bit. Decor, capital D, decor.png. This one's going to be moving at 8, and then again these numbers I'm making them up. So the first one you should calculate. The next one is going to be bg decor.png. I'm going to make that move at 4, and then the very last one will be the sky. I'm going to make that move at 2. If you're making a game, you'd actually make those tie in with the movement of actually how fast you're pressing right or whatever, or pressing jump or whatever select move. And now you can see these palm trees at the back are moving less swiftly than the palm trees at the front, and these things are moving fast still. And it looks just about right. Divide this by 2. If anything, this may be a little bit further away than double the distance that. But as a rule of thumb, you probably want layers to be that distance apart. I wouldn't go and add 1,000,000 layers in. You'll notice performance drop if you do that. Adding in, this is a foreground layer. It's actually 2 foreground layers because I've got one going front. You should just be able to see that the camel, these tufts of grass actually go over the top of the camels, because that's why I put that one underneath the camels. So the camels are in the middle here. Separate those out to make those a bit more obvious. But you'll really notice that the sort of layering and sort of making these guys a little bit further apart again adds that illusion that they're actually running next to each other rather than always just being on top of each other. And may even want to make that one a little bit in between these two, so they're running a sort of triangle. That's it for today. This is the 6th episode of my Advent series. If you like it, please hit like, please hit subscribe, or leave a comment down below what else you'd like to see. I think probably going to make this into almost like a nighttime scene. I've got some other assets in here. When I bought the pack of background assets, I got like 4 or 5. So I can now just change these to background. I think background 4 is nighttime. So I can quickly just change all those in. Again, if I was making these as variable, I'd load this in from a data file or something like that. And there you go. It's a nighttime, and the camels are running through the nighttime sky. I don't like having the moon in there though, because in a moment you'll notice there will be an issue because the moon will come around again. So they just went all the way around the world, I guess. But I do actually want to have a big star, which is like where they're running to. That'll be probably tomorrow or the day after. I mean, that's all I've got time for today. Thank you very much. If you hit like and subscribe, and see you again tomorrow.